Hello, everybody. This is Philip Shaw from Dresden, Ontario, Canada, back with you in this month's edition of East West with Dr. Enamel Haq from Dhaka, Bangladesh here to discuss the world issues that we talk about from time to time. And today we were just musing and talking about the tariffs that have been applied in this global trade war that we seem to have now. On this side of the world in Canada, our biggest trading partner in the United States has not only put quite a few onerous tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but also he's put on tariffs all around the world in his announcement earlier this month. And since then, he's been delayed at 90 days. And it's just hard to, it's hard to put any semblance of stability on with regard to how this is going to work for the United States or how this is going to work for the rest of the world, because it seems so hodgepodge and unstable the way it's put together with the U.S. president. But he must have a plan somewhere. He must have a plan somewhere. And China, on the other hand, must have a plan somewhere. And of course, for the rest of us in the world, whether you live in Brazil or Africa or Canada or Mexico or South Asia or Australasia, you'll have to have a plan too. Now, I know Dr. Haq has some ideas specifically about what may be the end game with regard to these tariffs. So go ahead, Dr. Haq. Let us know how you feel about it.
Thank you, Phil. The whole game, that particularly tariff game that we see, is a big surprise for everyone. I don't think 180 countries ever thought that the reciprocal tariff agreement will be imposed on them the way it has been imposed. Now I know Bangladesh has 84% tariff imposed on Bangladesh. Bangladesh does not have reciprocal tariff. If you think reciprocal tariff, it means Bangladesh must have used tariff to protect its own economy from US import to Bangladesh. But answer is, we don't have any of the import products that is coming from USA more than 15% tariff. So if you think about reciprocal tariff, it should have been 15% on Bangladesh. I'm just giving one example. The second point is that then why it is 84%? And I think now many people understand that this 84% is not calculated based on tariff rate, but based on deficit. Take an example, Bangladesh has a deficit of almost $6 billion. We import roughly about $2 billion. We export to United States about $8 billion. So there is a deficit, and he's using the deficit to actually block this export from Bangladesh to others. That's what he's doing. Now, in a way, that almost like whole world he is up against it, the whole world, because America became the biggest economy. Everyone is targeting US economy to sell good products. Remember, US is a $30+ trillion economy. That's a big economy. The comparable economy, the second largest one, is the Chinese economy, which is about $22-23 billion economy. So it's coming close to the American economy, but still in terms of the size of the market is a little bit less. If you look at the Europe, which is about $18 trillion economy, whole Europe. And if you look at India, which a lot of people think is a big coming, it's still a $3 to $4 trillion economy. And Russia is about $2.5-2.3 trillion economy. So if you look at the whole world, the dominance, US dominance is still there. It's the largest buyer. Just to give you an example, Chinese sell to United States almost $800 billion a year. And the deficit between China and United States is about $300 billion. So US export about $500 billion roughly. So given all these, I think the way I read the American strategy is that they want to target Chinese economy because they are probably the one that will become challenge and that will challenge US economy. So I think on this And my feeling is that the whole reciprocal tariff plan was actually the US plan to isolate Chinese economy, and that's their target. So you have imposed this tariff plan, looks very nice, but then you paused it for 90 days, which means US is telling every other countries that, look, if you do not negotiate with me, I'm going to impose it. So every country who sell to the US economy is going to negotiate, probably, except probably Chinese. So I think this is the game plan I see. Who will win in this whole game? I'm not sure, but if you start looking into the wall, I think the biggest problem is US now facing is probably that it is not trusted by others. That's a big, remember in an economy, trust is such an important factor. So between Canada, US, I'm pretty sure you tell that Canadians have less trust on the American government right now. I'm pretty sure this is true for Mexico. And when you think about it, when the trust is gone, even if you have a winning chance, it's also becoming very low. So I can see that, and that's exactly what the Chinese are doing. Chinese are now, Xi Jinping is actually now traveling around the world to actually build more trust. His principle, I would say that his real game plan is to tell everyone, I will remain open. Remember, China is a big economy, I mentioned already. And another 10 years, China will be the largest economy in terms of size of the GDP. So if that is the case, then American US needs to reorient it. Now, you might say that why they need it. And this is what my hypothesis used to be. US sell technology because they were, and they sell agriculture product. And used to be, it was all selling to the Chinese. A lot of this, if you think carefully. Over time, and this is very interesting, China has taken over the technology. The best success story for China is going to the Mars, landing their robots in Mars. And that tells everyone that they have superior technology, or at least acquired the technology. Now, once technology is out of their hand, I can see the second problem coming. That used to be a lot of military equipment used to be export item of US economy. But that is also under challenge after the Ukraine war. So I can see what Trump is doing, trying to reestablish the world that, look, you have to deal with me. I'm not sure what will happen, but that's the way I'm thinking about the US-China game plan. And the rest are basically will be watching the whole thing.
Well, am I too naive to believe that it doesn't have to be this way? Like, why does somebody have to win this in that way? Like, just a few short months ago, we had a different American president who did not have the same type of trade strategy. So, like, I understand, I'm hearing you when you're saying that, well, the United States doesn't have those types of, that production capacity for those items compared to the Chinese possibly landing on Mars sooner than anybody else. But like, I've spent enough time on the other side of the world with you when I'm in Bangladesh, and I see what the Chinese are doing, and I see how that influence, plus India, has raised incomes over a period of time. I'm at peace with that. I'm fine with that. And I don't understand, maybe I'm too naive to believe, I don't understand why it's so important for the Americans to win. But maybe it's like you say, it has to do with dominance. And it's just hard for me to get around on as a Canadian, and especially as somebody who's traveled to the other side of the world. And if Chinese influence is helping on the other side of the world, I'm all for that. I don't see why we have to win this. The Americans have to win this in this way. I just find it difficult to believe.
I can see your point, but my feeling is that America has, after the Second World War, particularly the US has been enjoying a superior status, with their currency, with their economy, and they have been at least leading the whole world. Look at the United Nations. look at NATO, they have been doing whatever they wanted to do. Now, if you have a second power coming, you have to respect the second power. This is going to, and that's something most Americans may be comfortable with. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Americans who didn't like the strategy that Trump is doing. But there is also a large other group who has voted for him. So it's a narrative that we are fighting with. So my feeling is that the narrative that China is going to kill us is a narrative. The narrative that, on the other hand, that look, China has been dominating Asian market for quite long, but except for Indian case, probably because of the territorial problem, nobody else mind that much. So, and they don't meddle in the country's internal affairs. So my feeling is that the narrative that is creating the problem, and I think these political narratives need to be looked carefully. And I think people like you and me should come up with, give the narrative, clarify the narrative so that people realize that, look, we are not talking about good guy, bad guy here. These are situations and you don't have to be so pessimistic about it. That's how I would put it.
You have to respect the reality of the situation. And, within this, even, I have maybe a little bit better view of the American narrative than you do from the other side of the world, me being 17 kilometers from the American border. And you're right. I think that narrative is out there regarding the Chinese, but also too, there's increased opposition within the United States to what is going on, and we don't yet know how that's going to play out because in their political cycle, it's every 2 years with congressional elections and such, and so this might be muted again, or this might change again. And even President Trump, it's hard to know exactly how he feels about these things, but by continuing to delay and I know from a Canadian perspective, it's hard for our political leadership to know what he'll do next. And with regard to this greater narrative globally with the Chinese, I heard as soon as a couple of days ago, he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get a deal with the Chinese. Don't know what that is. It seems unusual for him to say that because of the tariffs that we have applied now, and because that seems a little bit different than looking at the Chinese as dominating the United States someday. It's very hard to know.
I agree. I think the way you are thinking, is eventually is the midterm election coming. So if Trump can solve this, particularly, if he wins it, this game will be in one side, and if he cannot, if there is no solution to it before the midterm election, things may go other way, and I think we can all hope for it.
Where there's no problem up, but it is what it is, and it's the biggest, the global trade war ongoing the way it is now has been the biggest thing we've seen in years, and it has the potential to really redefine the global trade narrative and how it's going to work, and it's going to affect lives everywhere.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much.